Just by the way, to pick up on the discussion on the Department of Correctional Services in Thabo Bester, in fact, we had planned to speak to Correctional Services. They had agreed to do an interview. They've come back now to saying, and there's a statement from Singabako Numalo from the Department of Correctional Services saying the Department of Correctional Services will in due course provide an update on its work emanating from the findings and recommendations made by the investigation report on the escape of Thabo Bester. Hence, a running commentary is not ideal at this stage, as it may put into jeopardy the investigations by other state agencies. Make of that what you will, right? By the way, further thoughts on my question about in terms of relief fundraising in South Africa by the many relief organizations, and how much of the money is distributed as per the relief, right, should be distributed in South Africa versus abroad, as a ratio. Just your thoughts about, it's no sense, we're not saying distribute in South Africa only, and we're not saying distribute in other countries only. Like, what's the right balance for you that makes a lot of sense? And I think the balance is important. Okay, 0617660355, WhatsApp me, text or voice notes. Let's now talk about a rather bizarre, horrific, and not surprising story, in fact, coming out of India, of an imam at a mosque there being beaten, and he's had his beard cut off for refusing to chant Hindu slogans. Let me tell you, by the way, I was in India 2 weeks ago, but on a business trip. I was in Mumbai, and then in Surat and some of the villages around that region. And the plan was to go to New Delhi, Asif, but I didn't go, and that worked because my work was cut short, so didn't quite actually get to New Delhi, but maybe some other time. But the problems, of course, in India remain. I was asked the question by other people: did you witness any anti-Muslim behavior? And certainly not in the areas where I am. But then, India is a big country. It's a subcontinent at all, just that, because it's so massive. So what happens in other parts of India, even in Mumbai, like Maharashtra, the state there can be very different to my own personal experiences. So let's find out more about what's really happened here with Asif Mujtaba, who's a journalist reporting from New Delhi in India. Asif, appreciate your time. Good morning. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Okay, so about 12 o'clock your time, if I can get my maths right.
Yes.
What's happened regarding this imam? Tell me.
See, it happened just 2 days back when a mosque, he was returning from the masjid after the Tarawih, and he was caught up by this group of Hindutva mob. He was forced to chant a Hindu slogan, Jai Shri Ram, and then he refused, so he was brutally thrashed and his beard was cut off. So if you look at it, one incident, I think hundreds of such incidences are happening every day throughout the territory of the country. The poison of Hindutva, this Hindu chauvinism, it has penetrated so deep across the towns, across the villages, across the remote areas, that it has become very easy to demean Muslims. So you will find it very common that Hindu mob chanting very provocative, very criminal, and I would say very nefarious slogans outside mosques and dargah. You will find it very common that Muslims are getting lynched in the name of cow. They are brutally murdered on the broad daylight. You will find it very common that Muslims are arrested on fictitious charges and put to jail. They spend decades there despite their innocence. So all these things, they are happening in the country for long. What has happened after the Modi era, after the 2014, that they have proliferated to a large extent. So 2 years back, I mean, there was an incident where an imam was brutally murdered inside the mosque by a mob. So these episodes, you said this is bizarre and horrific, but not uncommon, unusual. And this is what we feel every day. Muslim houses getting demolished despite a legal, support by the court that this property is it should not be demolished. But even then, the authorities of the day, they are not listening even to the courts. So in India, the situation in toto is very horrific. Some months back, a guy was lynched on the suspicion of just being a Muslim. A guy was about to get lynched in Maharashtra from the Hindu community. People thought he's a Muslim. So this is happening. So just being a Muslim
Asif, if I
is enough to be lynched in the India.
All right,
Yes.
Asif, just a question. We'll go back to what may happen next. So let's go to the imam in question. So this was in Maharashtra state,
Yes.
which is Mumbai, right? So we were talking about very much the commercial capital of the country, as opposed to somewhere on the outside. What then has happened to him after he had his beard cut off and he was beaten up? What then happened next?
See, what happened to this case is very much similar to what happens in all the cases. Imam was caught, brutally thrashed, his beard cut off, and he was beaten to an extent that the mob thought he was dead. Then he was left. And this has happened for like almost 100 times with 100 other people. So later, what happened? They filed a police case. Since the state is ruled by the BJP, so the police will never find the culprits. Some 2 years, 3 years back, there was a full-scale riot, a pogrom in Delhi. There were visuals coming up that when you would see Delhi police personnel beating a guy, forcing him to chant the national anthem. And the guy later died, succumbed to his injury. His name was Faizan. The thing is, everything, the video was there. Police could not identify the police personnel who was involved into this. So the thing that is very going to be common in these cases, police will fail to find the culprit, even if they do so under due pressure by the civic authorities and by the civil society.
Yeah, yeah.
They will put a very bogus charge sheet, such a flimsy charge sheet that it does not stand in a single day in the court of law. So police does everything in this capacity to make sure that culprit walks free. So
Okay,
the
let's just look at this. What's been the position then? So in this particular case, right? You say, I mean, a charge has been laid. We don't know what's going to happen. What's been the role of civil society and including the media, people like yourself, in highlighting the cases and ensuring that if you can, the culprits are called to justice, but at the very least that there's global awareness around it, so that people, organizations like Amnesty and Human Rights Watch, puts enough pressure on Modi's government to change their ways. Has that been happening?
See, the very first thing is amnesty has been banned in India. All their accounts frozen. Uh, Human Rights Watch, so Indian government has not left much space for all these humanitarian agencies even to speak. So the total atmosphere, the total area where this human rights group or civil society or individuals or these non-government authorities were working, it has shrunk to such a low that you feel suffocating, right?
Yeah.
So you name any international organization, name any national big civil society group, their area of work has been culminated to the great degree. Now, civil society is is becoming irrelevant in India because the government has not given them enough space. If you talk about the court of law, I think now the most of the court of laws are like a banana court of laws. The judgments are very criminal. You would have seen what the Supreme Court, even the apex court, gave judgment in terms of the Babri Masjid. Their judgments are criminal. Lower courts are very criminal, giving bail to Muslim activists who have been incarcerated for false charges. It has become seems like a distant dream. Even the high courts have become very, I would say, problematic in terms of giving relief to these people. So if you sum up, just look from broader perspective. All the authorities of the state, be it legislature, judiciary, or the executive, they are working in every possible interest that is against the interest of the Muslim. The civil society and the human right group, both nationally, domestically and internationally, their space have been shrunk, curtailed to such an extent that their voices have been suffocated and they don't find any relevance there. The court of the law of the day, they are not giving a judgment that they should do to uphold the secular and democratic credential of the country, values of the nation. In toto, the existence of Muslims have become very difficult. Every place, everywhere, Muslims have been denied honorable existence. Just 4 days back, some group of Muslims were holding Taraweeh in the basement of a shop. You will be amazed that police not only interrupted, but they threatened these Muslims, ended the namaz. And just 2 days back, a fine of 5 lakh rupees each were handed over to all these Muslims. just because holding namaz in a private property. So you would have seen just last year there was a lot hue and cry about Muslims holding up namaz at public places. So Hindus can hold their festival in public places in broad daylight with money from the state, but Muslims can't. And now Muslims can't even offer namaz at their private property. This is happening, and there is
Has
no
there
remorse.
been I mean, you already made the point about human rights organizations being suffocated. I get that. Has there been any criticism from opposition parties, and need I say it, has there been any action directed towards the government and even to the Prime Minister Modi about this has got to change? It's unacceptable, it's undemocratic, you cannot allow it in any country in the world.
I forgot to add that the voices of the opposition have been oppressed too. So the largest opposition party, Congress, and one of the biggest leader of the Congress, I mean the son of the former prime ministers, he was disqualified being an MP just a week back, just because he criticized Modi for his friendship with Adani and all the fraud that they have done. His membership in, I mean, he was convicted in a case, I mean, a local court. He was given 2 years term punishment, and that was also farcical. I mean, it was really farcical to see a leader of opposition getting this kind of adverse judgment despite no role of his. He was disqualified the next day, and just 2 days back, his accommodation was also cancelled by the Lok Sabha secretary. So if you talk about opposition as well, so the existence of opposition have become a hell in this country. So
Yeah,
they're
okay,
fighting
sure.
for their own
You
survival.
all
Courts are
right.
fighting to become more criminal. The civil society have been suffocated. The international human rights group have been banned and they have not been allowed to work. And
Okay.
Muslims are left on their own to fight for a just an honorable existence in the country. And
which
this
which
is
then
really
which then brings me back to the real issue here, right? Which is, tell me about the rise of what you call Hindutva, and this and their aims, and are their aims amongst many others Hindu nationalism, but at the same time to eliminate all other religious groupings. And linked to that, can you comment on the allegations that in fact they
perfect.
exist and they thrive only because the current Prime Minister of India, Modi, in fact, not just turns a blind eye, but is an active supporter of their aims.
See, if you look at the nationalism in India, India is considered a nation in nation. We have thousands of nationalism identity here, and that's very beautiful. That's what makes India beautiful. So you have, if someone says I'm a Hindu nationalist, it's okay. Someone says if I'm a Muslim nationalist, okay, because the idea of nationalism is not dogmatic; it's pragmatic, and that's why you have thousands of identity. I mean, they have diluted their identities in the crucible a great country that's called India. But if you talk especially about the Hindu nationalism, I think the idea is very nefarious. If you look at the propounders of Hindu nationalism or Hindutva, so one of the biggest propounders is Savarkar. They justify rape as a tool to demean Muslims. They justify as rape as a tool to, I mean, control these diverse groups. They justify the killing of Muslims, saying that since Hindus have been killed in the ancient era, in the medieval time, so it is justified to even kill Muslims. They justify destruction of holy places of Muslims and Christians, saying that these people came to our country and their religious places, it's totally fine to desecrate and destroy it. So, if you talk about particularly the Hindu nationalism or the Hindutva idea in toto is nefarious. It thrives on hate. It thrives on bigotry. It thrives on violence. It thrives on perpetuating crimes in a broad daylight and also removing the moral compass. So if you rape someone in violence or in riots, the moral compass is removed by Hindutva, right?
Okay.
And it has always been there. See, one of the largest organizations that propounds Hindutva is RSS. RSS was established in 1925. So, I mean, in 2025, RSS will have 100 years of its existence. In those 100 years, many governments came at the center level and went by, but the RSS was always there. So the RSS has got an identity that is far more important than the identity of any political party.
Yeah,
And
I
this
get that.
idea of Hindutva has been there But for almost a decade after Narendra Modi came to power, this current BJP came to power, they were given a mainstream position. So Hindutva has always been the mistress to all these political parties. Even the party I told about, whose MP has been disqualified, this
Congress, yeah.
Congress, they were the one, they kept Hindutva as a mistress with them, but Hindutva was never the wife. And after the Modi came to power, from the mistress, they have become the mainstream. From the
So let
opposite,
me end with Modi. What is so? Is it accurate to say that if the mistress has turned the wife, to use your analogy, that can only happen because of the support of the BJP and of course its leader, which is the leader of the country, Narendra Modi, right? Um, can we say that Modi is supportive of their actions, or he's aware of their actions but he's turning a blind eye? I mean, there are two different issues. Is he actively supporting the actions, or is he turning a blind eye, even though he knows it's wrong, but he can't do much about it?
so see, it's very common. And if you look at it, Modi has been with the RSS for long. Modi was the chief minister of Gujarat when the Muslims were butchered, massacred, burnt, raped, and killed in the streets of Gujarat. Modi was the one who, if you look at the speeches Modi gave some 5 or 6 years back, you will find it very problematic, very criminal, because his speeches were laden with criminal, provocative slurs. At one place in UP, he said, if Muslims can have Kabristan, Hindus can have Shamshan. So what kind of, analogy a prime minister has? So don't look at Modi from his perspective or his position currently. Look at what he has been in the past. He has been an active member of the Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, or RSS, that is a terrorist Hindutva organization. He has been the chief minister of the state when Gujarat witnessed one of the largest anti-Muslim pogrom and killing. He has been the prime minister of this country for almost a decade now, for 2 terms. And in these decade, Muslims have seen, numerous episodes of cyclic violence, and Modi did not utter a voice even.
Yeah.
So Modi is the political leader, but the ideological leader is the head of the RSS,
Okay, got
and the
that.
one who propound the concepts of Hindutva.
All right.
So
Lastly,
party.
ask if in your role as a journalist, are you safe talking to me? Are you safe giving other interviews? Are you safe writing anything about what has just happened? Are you safe, or is your own life in danger?
See, as a matter of fact, the voices of dissent are very unsafe in country. Not, it's not with the journalists. Even if the leader of opposition of the largest opposition party, if he says something that is critical of the government, even he has been disqualified. Lot of my friends have been incarcerated in a fake cases. They are in jail. They are with the anti-terror, severe anti-terror cases. But the thing is, one has to fight for what is right. One has to fight to say that, look, all these approaches, all these things, they have been very detrimental to the idea of India. There has to be someone who can say that this is not the idea of India as propounded by our great national leaders, almost when we got independence. So none of the voices of dissent are safe in the country. It is very easy for, leave apart the journalist, a Muslim identity that is critical of the government, it's very easy for them to be targeted, to be demeaned, to be incarcerated, to be charged under anti-terror. The anti-terror laws have become such a tool that anyone can be charged. And the
Yeah,
onus of
yeah.
proving innocence is left on the victim. So you
Okay,
spend a decade or more proving your innocence, and you end up after 15, 20 years by the freeing up by the court saying that no charges have been proved. But no
okay.
one
Asif,
2 decades.
Asif Mujtaba, let's leave it there. Thank you for your time. Thanks for highlighting something we've heard before, but again, it needs to be heard once again. And you've reiterated and amplified again the huge problems in existing in that country with what the second most populous Muslim population in the world, a huge minority, but apparently under attack by Hindutva and this Hindu nationalism that has moved to the point where, in fact, it is there. It appears that it's the plan is to annihilate, which can be hugely problematic. In terms of the
I,
name, Asif
I
Mujtaba,
would
for
like
people who
to
don't, thank you
I
so
would like
much. In
to
fact,
add one word, that we are sitting on a genocidal time bomb. It's ticking fast, and this is very
sure.
troubling.
Not good news at all there coming from Asif Mujtaba. Thank you for your time, most appreciated. For others who don't know the name, You may have heard the name Asif Mushtaba the first time when he played cricket for Pakistan. Not the same person, just making the point about the connection of the name. But this issue perhaps even more important than who wins on a cricket match. Let's get fired up. We chat to Hafiz Hussain Shunara right after this.